I'm going to introduce myself for our viewers that my name is Nili. I'm a social worker in Avi-ad, and today we're going to talk about survivors. Before, I'm going to start with something a little bit personal about myself. I feel that it's like my duty to teach and to learn, to make people learn and understand Holocaust and Holocaust survivors. My grandfather was an Holocaust survivor, was in Auschwitz, that we will discuss you. So for me, teaching about the Holocaust, especially foreigners, which are not Jewish, is personal victory for the Nazis. So we're going to start, but before we're going to start to talk about the Holocaust, to understand what is the Holocaust. Events lead up for it to happen. Is anybody doesn't know what the Holocaust is? Don't be shy or embarrassed. It's okay. So anybody doesn't know what it is? Anybody with a Holocaust survivor patient? Nobody has patients with Holocaust survivors? Yes? Okay, good. Anybody else? You, don't be shy. Come on. I know it's a live class, but still, it's me, right? Okay. So we're going to talk about what was the Holocaust. Okay? So we're talking about the Holocaust is a very unique event that happened through all the human history. Why? Because this is the first time in human history where a genocide was systematically and designed and planned in sole purpose of termination and extinction of all Jews in the world. Okay? So, it was the unique characteristics of the Holocaust is that it was very, very much planned. It was systematic. All the governmental legislation, rules, and actions were in only purpose how to kill more Jews. Okay? So when we're talking about numbers, we're talking about estimated number of 6 million Jews. Not all the murderers were Jews. The Nazis killed also gypsies, gay, lesbians, disabled people, everybody that didn't fit to their perfect and nation of the Aryan people. Okay? Hi, let's join in. So, we're going to talk about let's go back in history a little bit to understand how could it be that a regular country, regular people are actively taking part and participating in killing and destruction of a complete nation, okay? So it started a little bit before 1993 when the Nazi regime went up to power in Germany, okay? You can see this is the leader of the, it's very, very disturbing. Thank you. The leader of the party was Adolf Hitler. By raising up in Germany, they started doing legislation and rules to start their action and the treatment according to the Jews. So we have, first of all, acts of violence and humiliation by the law or by random people were authorized. It was okay and more than even welcome. Second, legislation and rules against Jewish, okay? Boycott all Jewish stores, products. Jewish were not allowed to hold any properties, meaning that if I have an apartment of my own, it would be taken for the government. I'm not allowed to hold any properties. I'm not allowed to hold any position in public services, if I'm a teacher in a school or in a university, I'm not allowed to do so. I'm not allowed to go into social clubs. If I'm a member of a country club and I wish to go there every day, I'm not allowed to go there anymore. I'm not allowed to go on buses. I'm not allowed to marry any German non-Jewish person. Okay? So this was the beginning. Now I'm going to show you a little bit some pictures. Jewish literature writers were not allowed to write their poems, books, all books and literature that was written by Jewish were burning. You can see here, this is 1938, the burning books. All books will burn. Okay? So, the peak of this phase in the history was the Nuremberg law. Anybody know what it says? Heard about it? Nuremberg? No? Okay. So the point was to define who is a Jewish. How can they say you're a Jewish and you're not? So it's not only about the fact that my mother is Jewish, but they also checked 3 generations backwards. Meaning that if my grandmother married a German, non-Jewish German, and my mother married a non-Jewish, and I myself am married to a non-Jewish, I'm still considered to be Jewish. Why? Because there is a very small percentage of Judaism inside me. Okay, and obviously today it was bound by the law that you're not allowed to marry Jewish. Okay. So, next phase. It's 1939 to 1941. We're talking the beginning of World War II. Okay, this picture is when Adolf Hitler declares war against the United States. And the second part of this phase is not only World War II, it's by starting to plan a strategy on how to eliminate the Jewish around Europe. Okay, so on 1939, Germany invades to Poland, which actually made the World War start. Second thing that happened in 1939 at the beginning was Heinrich, I don't know how to say this in German actually. It's a list of actions to be made in Germany, not only Germany, all it's corroborated. We already said Austria is a part of Germany now in 1939, Poland, and all a little bit by little, the Germans capture different countries. So what they do, they're concentrating Jews in ghetto. Anybody know what the ghetto is? Please answer back. Yes. So today we know the word ghetto symbolizes a lot of things other than the concept of the Holocaust. We have ghettos in Brooklyn, Harlem, United States. Ghetto is basically a neighborhood which is combined by a community or something that defines her from the others. The unique ghettos in this period is that the Jewish were not allowed to go outside. The conditions were very, very poor. Okay? We already said about this. Sorry. So the conditions were very, very poor. People lived in very crowded. They didn't have any hygiene, no medicine. You can see that they had borders. They're not allowed to step outside. Only people who are allowed to step outside are the people that are working in factories. Did not evacuate the deaths, and then it caused more illnesses. Okay. You can see, look, in this picture is very interesting because this part, some of the parts are for Jewish and some of the parts are not, and they're very. They have the army to make sure there's an order. Look, this part, these are the Germans and these are the Jewish. It's very many people were captured together in a very small location. Okay, see? Okay. See, look how many people we're talking about. A whole city was moved to one specific neighborhood. Okay. They made a council made by Jews so that they would be able to handle all things in the ghetto. How to move them from one place to another, we will discuss in a minute. What else? This we'll talk about. And one more important thing, marketing the Jews. How a German soldier will be able to identify who is not a Jewish and who is not. They were made to wear yellow signs. The stores had Magen David written on them, yes, on their clothes. In different countries in Europe, they have different signs. Some of them wore signs on their arms, some of them, but the most recognized is the yellow badge. Okay? Okay, third phase. Third phase was the most difficult, let's say, because this is the phase where the final solution was actually starting to take action. Okay, mass extermination. The Germans were not satisfied by the death in the ghettos. It was too slow. They needed something more systematically, faster. We're talking about, think about 7 million Jewish people around Europe. How you make them all go away? So they started death camps. The death camps were in cities, not in Germany, but in Poland, where the Jewish were arriving there for the sole purpose of dying. Okay? They were transferred in trains. You know, you can see that this is not regular train. This is train where they leave the cows. But it was very, very crowded, and they arrived to the death camps. They were selected. The ones who were healthy enough went to slavery. The other ones to the gas chambers and to the crematoriums. Obviously, the starvation was there was no condition, no food. We're talking about, I don't know if anybody were in Europe on, let's say, November till February. Anybody been there? We're talking in most countries, it's can be minus 15. So think about it, this is the clothes that they were wearing. They had no proper clothing, no nothing. You see, it was guarded. And probably many of you know the tattoos. When the Jewish that were a good labor force that arrived to the camps, they were not treated as people. They were not treated as persons. They were treated as numbers. So their numbers were tattooed on their arm, and since then, it's not a person anymore. It's a number.
It's related to the number?
No, it's not. Yes, but I don't know if to that it's more. Yes, serial number. So think about what it does to your personality if you're nothing but a serial number. I'm number 2, I'm nothing else. I don't have any family, I don't have anything. I'm only a number. Okay? So the last phase was the Germans starting to realize that because they put all their effort in killing Jews, they're not putting the effort in winning the war. So they're going to lose the war, and they understand that they have to cover the tracks. They cannot have the world see what they did and what they're doing. So they started blowing up the death camps. They're starting taking the people that survived the death camp all through Europe so that they would die on the way and there would be no track of what they did. At the end, the Nazis surrendered in 1945. The cities in Europe were Iraq. The bombing from the Soviet Union and from the United States, and leaving demolition and nothing. As I said, we're talking about 6 million. You know, just so that you can amount it, in Israel, there is about 7.5 million people. So think about how many people died. Okay, I can tell you from my personal and my only experience that my grandfather, which was, he and his cousin were the only ones surviving. He had 6 brothers and sisters, 2 parents, nieces, babies, and the only one survived are him and his cousin. Okay, I want to show you, before we start talking about the survivor itself and the specifics and the unique characteristics, I want to show you a video. It's not easy to watch. Some difficult images. It would give us a good preparation to what should we know about our patients as Holocaust survivors. Okay? Oh, wait, sorry.
Little dot in my case, a number B7648. The Germans grabbed my arm, I had to make and with a hypodermic needle. Every little dot was injected until it became, in my case, a number B7648. In the middle of the night, they kicked down the door. They were yelling and screaming. My mom and dad were at a loss. They grabbed me to protect me, especially from the German shepherds, which were pretty much at my level. They took us out on the truck. I, of course, was scared. I was confused. I had no way of doing anything. We were taken off and were greeted by people who had really moved like zombies. My father was forced to work repairing the electrified fences. My mother made iron for the military boots. I, miraculously, was given the chance to work in the agriculture department. The food ration was a single loaf of bread, a watery cabbage soup, intentionally non-nutritional. That was the total. As far as I was concerned, I had an escape mechanism from that level of starvation by stealing food as much as I could. The way I stole it was by putting holes in my pocket, let the seeds fall down to my ankles where the pant was tightened up. I was able to pass inspection by being patted down. Had I been detected, I would have become what the Germans called execution by hanging. One of the saddest moments in the ghetto was that when my dad came home, laid down since there was no furniture, and simply expired. The sidewalk would be littered by the corpses of those that had passed away the night before. And they had a wagon full of people coming across. That to me was more painful than seeing my dad give up his life or pass away. What will be done to him after he passed. When I went to work the next morning, I did see him laying naked, waiting to be picked up of this wagon, taking to the way that people had been buried and plucked, would fall down into a heap of bodies. That was painful. One Nazi dragged my mom away and he said, "You belong over there on the other side." I didn't call her mommy or anything like this. There was no time to do that. I realized very quickly to see my mother again is not ever going to happen. They shaved our hair. They pushed us through an archway and doused us with a painful liquid. We were washed for about 10 seconds against a large building with a huge smokestack and an enormous flame and a most obnoxious odor that we could not recognize. We were packed in with the density of standing room only. You could hardly move. We hear a noise and realize that looking up, 2 airplanes were circling the train. They had circular insignias, predominantly French fighter planes, and also accompanied by British fighter planes. They misrecognized and designated as apparently returning German military. And I was my good fortune to be at the very front of the wagon and not be in the trajectory when the machine got fired when they had made 2 runs. We lost about 30 to 40% of the inhabitants of each wagon with all the carnage. The train went on. Those of us who could survive on a piece of bread and a bowl of soup simply hung in. Suicides into the electrified wires, finding maybe an excuse to be shot to end their life, was not unusual. On Friday, April 11th at 3:15, we hear a very unfamiliar noise, a mechanical noise. I see a tank coming up. Being familiar with German insignia, I didn't see that. What I saw instead of all things was the White Star of David, the commander wore a uniform of the United States Third Army, headed by General George Patton. It's difficult to reach of Avi-ad do not get along with one another. I witnessed Kosovo, Somalia, Darfur, Rwanda, and another 20 different genocides since World War II. And one Sunday morning, seeing the audience, the supposed supporter, to raise their hand and give an oath, things like this are not very welcome to somebody who survived the Holocaust. Democracy, I believe, has a chance to be greatly diminished in our country. Are we actually going to build a fence around our country and make a ghetto out of the United States? Are we going to have 1 million people sent out and make refugees? I just simply cannot accept that America goes the way of Germany at one time. Have we learned anything about World War II, Korean War, Vietnam, the Iraqi War? People choose not to live in peace based on certain agendas, whether political or in some cases religious. So we have to learn not just from the Holocaust, because it is a historical fact that people don't seem to be able to live in peace and in agreement for a better life.
That was harsh, right? But what can I say? That this really give us a good insight regarding Holocaust survivors. Because when we're think about ourselves, right? Think about ourselves for a minute. Think about a really intense memory that you have from growing up, and you form your personality, and something that influences you till this day. And when this event is so traumatic and has so many loss of, not only loss of family members, but also loss of my humanitarian. I mean, I'm not a person anymore. I'm not human. This is what the purpose was, not to explain. The Jewish were considered human, not to be people. They were a number. They have to deal with the fact that I was nothing to nobody for a very long time. I witnessed some horrible images. I lived in starvation, in poor hygiene, and now I'm supposed to live my life with not even nothing, I would say even minus. Okay, so before we will continue to the symptoms about what should we expect from our Holocaust survivors as a patient, as our patients, I'm going to take a 10 minute break so you can go and check your patients and we will continue. Okay? So you can breathe, maybe take some water to relax, and we will continue afterwards.
And another thing, before you go, you can always bring here to the class the paper from Matan, and me or Nili will bring it to the office. And Galit, she sits outside from Matan. She sits here outside every morning.